The Sovereign Mamas movement is really there to create a space and a stage for the untold truth about motherhood and business, about helping each other out in those moments where we feel it's all hard and impossible, and where we still get to carve out those dreams and live them because it is possible.
Hello, dear listeners. It's that time again when we stroll through the paths of ambition, desire, and success. Welcome to the Dare to Declare podcast, where we explore the enchanting world of giant manifestors who've turned their visions and goals into the stuff of legends. I couldn't help but wonder, how do some people create the lives they've always dreamed of? Is it the magic of manifesting, the power of perseverance, or perhaps just a dash of serendipity? Well, dear friends, grab your coffee cups because we're about to spill the tea on fascinating journeys of those who dare to dream big and make it happen. Join me as we sip on success stories and ponder the ever-enticing question, can we all manifest our dreams into reality, or is it just an urban fairy tale? I'm your host, Debbi, and I'm here to guide you through the labyrinth of achievement with heart and soul. Ready to dare to declare? Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to an amazing episode today with the Dare to Declare special guest, Julia Jerg. I'm really excited to introduce you to her and what she's got going on, especially for what she affectionately calls mamas and the sovereign mama. And Julia is a soul-led business coach and founder of the Sovereign Mamas movement. She's based in Bali, and I just did a little check before we even got on here this morning, and I'm in Ontario, Canada. She's in Bali, which means we're 12 hours difference, which means she's up at 4 a.m. So just so impressed with her persistence and commitment to being here. She is a proud mom of two, and Julia helps soulful women clarify their offers and build feminine energy funnels that create flow, power, and profit without burnout. Get ready to be inspired by her blend of strategy, spirituality, and embodied leadership. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Debbie.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And you have a podcast as well, don't you?
Yes, it's also called Sovereign Mamas, just like the brand that you mentioned.
Right. Well, let's dive right in because you are a mom of two, but your story starts much earlier than that, where if people can pick up a little bit with your accent, you were originally from Germany, right?
Yes, yes. I always like to describe the turning point, my beginning of the second phase of my life in 2011, when I left Germany after many years of working in a corporate environment, and I kind of reached a point where I felt close to burnout. I did a lot of things like that were great, exciting. I had an amazing job, and but I was kind of married to that job, and I wasn't even 30 back then. And a friend of mine, she came back from a year in Mexico, and she looked at me and she said, Julia, you just look awful. And I said, I feel awful. And she said, why don't you just take a break and travel for a bit? And that was a crazy idea at that time. I thought, I was so career driven. I did it all by the books. I was clearly brainwashed by society that, if you are following a certain path, you have to do it in this way. And so this proposition of taking a break while I was feeling I was at the peak of my career sounded really dumb. But it sat with me, right? This idea then grew louder in my head. And long story short, it took me only a few weeks to then quit my job, sell my apartment, sell all my things, and buy an around the world ticket and have everything that I belonged that fit in a backpack and go see places. And well, I told my family and friends I'll be back in about 6 to 8 weeks. I already had a business partner waiting because I said, I'm not going to go back to that job. I will open up my own agency. And we had already like the name and the legal things in place. And I said, just give me that break and I'll be back and then we'll get started. And then I never returned. And it was the beginning of my journey to self, to completely redo my life, my belief system, and the initiation of 10 years of digital nomading around the world. I got my kids around the world, and they were digital nomad babies until COVID started, and so on and so forth. So that was the turning point, so to speak.
For sure. And, let's just go back to the idea. Like, I don't want to trip over this because, okay, your friend comes in, says, I just was in Mexico. You should probably go down south, get some sun, stop looking so pasty, and then you sold everything. Like, there's one thing to say, take a 6 to 8 week vacation.
I know.
But did you think that already in your subconscious, like the fact that you sold everything and let go of your apartment, like it sounds like you already knew that you wouldn't be coming back, even though you told people. Why do you think you told people 6 to 8 weeks, but yet you sold everything off? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, it was absolutely, it didn't make sense. And I had obviously everyone in my inner circle back then. They said, keep your apartment, because I was living in a city in Munich, in Germany, that is a very popular place, and it's hard to get an apartment. I had a beautiful apartment, and I had been searching long for it. So letting it all go for me meant to just have this freedom. And yes, you're right. Deep down, something in me knew I wanted to be free and just reset. And I just explained it and said, okay, when I come back, I might not want to be living here. And I couldn't really explain it, but I just acted upon this inner voice telling me, let everything go, be free, and you can always come back and recreate it. But if you keep something, it'll also keep you. And so this was just not really logical from the outset, but it made sense. And I know that from very early years, even when I was a little girl, I'm a very intuitive person, and I'm very much connected to this inner voice, even though it was like tapped. It was like covered and by noise from society and other things in that happen in life. But when I look back at all those moments that were important in my life, there was this guiding voice, and that would lead me to the most important decisions of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said if I kept it, it would keep me. Like that's just so powerful that you already had that intuitive thought. Something I'm hearing in the background. At first I thought it was a cat or maybe a baby crying, but I think it's a rooster, right? Have you got a rooster crowing? Yeah. So talk about the early morning. I think that's so amazing. And we're going to talk about where you are, because you are a major manifester. And so it's interesting to me that, when you were younger, as you said, you followed your intuition because it was deep seated. You maybe weren't conscious at that point that this is what you were doing. And yet you made that brave decision. So, okay. So you left Germany and you ended up, was it in Chile?
So yeah, I did a full loop around the world. I started off in India, then Southeast Asia, all through Australia, New Zealand, and then South America. And I ended up in Chile, and in the desert of Chile, I met the father of my children. Fell madly in love. Didn't think that this was a good idea, because I thought, oh, I'm just a good-looking guy in the middle of the desert. What could possibly not go wrong? And I had, a next flight or bus to catch 2 days later, and so I just said, okay, nice knowing you, and I kept going. But even though I did then continue my travels, even went to the US and continued a few more months of this travel to complete my trip that I had planned and laid out. I then returned, and we stayed in touch, and I ended up then canceling the flight back to Germany, because this around the world ticket was a 1-year open ticket, and there was a final date on it, and I had to take that one flight back to Germany. And I said, all right, I do not want to take that flight and see if maybe this relationship might turn into something serious. And so I ended up staying in the desert with him for 6 months. The relationship did end up turning into something more meaningful. And then we started together to travel for the next decade.
Wow. So I'm so curious. I mean, I've never traveled other than with a travel agent and, all inclusives. And so you probably just shake your head at like my world experience. So I'm always curious and a bit in awe of someone like, did you have it planned out, or do you only have like the next few stops planned out? Did you start traveling differently from when you were single to when you were a couple? And then you actually traveled with your children as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So I had all the different constellations. And the first year I was pretty much following a route that I pre-booked when I was in Germany. I found that agency and they offered around the world tickets, and it just sounded amazing. I just wanted to see, because in my head back then I thought this is a once in a lifetime thing and I have to make worth of all the time. And then I also thought I was just doing it for 6 to 8 weeks, right? So I had an itinerary pressed into 6 to 8 weeks from India to South America, which is crazy
Oh,
now that I'm
oh,
thinking, like,
wow. Yeah.
that the ticket was flexible enough to let me rebook the upcoming flights, which I ended up doing every time I got to a new destination. I said, all right, I need more time in India. All right, I need more time in Singapore or whatever, wherever I landed next. And that then meant the 6 weeks turned into 1 year. And that's why I then ended up in Chile, the final destination at the end of the full year. And that was the only time when I had like a set route. When then I made the decision not to return to Germany and then stay out, and I also had to make two decisions. First of all, I was very conscious that now that I'm not going back and have a job, my savings were still there, but I had to create some income. And I figured out how to make money online. And then I decided, okay, let's just go places and see where we can work online. In the beginning, actually, to be fair, there was places like Canada, there were places like Australia where we could get a working permit, and we did fun things like those backpacking jobs, and I had a million different things. I was a chef one day in a in a restaurant, in a bakery. I did like uh, driving cars and stuff. Like, I had all these experiences which were fun, but then along the way I also noticed, okay, um I do need to, or I want, because I don't want to go back to my old life in Germany. So how am I going to make this sustainable? And while in the beginning those freelance jobs were okay to fund the travel lifestyle, it wasn't really in alignment with what I had in me. And so I discovered the love for coaching and built my coaching business. And then back to your question, and then our traveling really evolved around which place offers a good, you know, like the combination of, I love the sun and beaches. So I wanted to go somewhere warm and with good internet connection where it's easy to get around, and kind of also communities and hubs where other digital nomads were. I was looking for conferences. I was doing like a lot of speaking gigs and spoke on social media marketing because that was my background. And so it was a combination of where are nice places and where is an opportunity to network and to grow the business at the same time.
So was
Yeah,
that your online business? Was social marketing?
in the beginning, yes. So I was doing a lot of coaching around how you can market your business and your brand on Facebook in the beginning,
Mhm.
and specifically helping women and men create this marketing path for themselves, because back in Germany, I did work in a communications agency, and we focused on marketing and PR for brands. So that was for me something easy, and people back in Germany reached out and said, "Hey, if you're not coming back, can you help us remotely?" And that also shifted for me then in my head. Oh, so there is such a thing as remote work. Back then it wasn't that normal or something that people would be doing. And I said, okay, if there are people offering that, then there might be more.
Right.
And so I grew my client base around that topic in the beginning. Yeah.
Ah, brilliant. So let's talk a bit about how you manifested your you jokingly said that you manifested COVID. So let's talk about that, like how you found yourself on a beautiful island, like you said, or a beautiful area, and you weren't sure how to stay there. So can we talk a bit about that?
Yes, yes, sure. So it's I really jokingly say that, but
Yeah.
in my travel years, I always repeated this one sentence: I wish I could stay longer on a tropical island for just those 30 days or 60 days of tourist visa that you get. And usually when you come to Thailand or Cambodia or whatever nice place in Asia, or also, Hawaii. When I traveled there, I was like, oh, I want more time here. And so I kept saying over and over the sentence. And then by the time COVID started, we were in Thailand. I was speaking at a conference in the north of the country. And when the conference was over, we wanted to do a trip to one of the islands in the south. And we just to relax afterwards and have a little bit of a nice time down there. And then COVID hit its initiation phase. And that meant for us, okay, we were surrounded by also traveling families. There were other people who had been out for a couple of years or a few months traveling with their families. So we were surrounded by like-minded people who were not just on a vacation trip. And when the news came out, COVID was happening, the countries were calling back their people saying, it's time, you have to come back. We only support you. We are sending out airplanes and you have to be on this final flight. And they made it really sound so scary and so urgent. And I kept feeling no, such a strong no. This didn't make sense to me to fly back into the middle of where the disaster seemed to happen so much more and was so much more present than on this tropical paradise island. I was like, yeah, we have to put on a mask when we go into the supermarket, but other than that, well, just like walking on a beach, and I can still walk around freely and see people. I'm not leaving here. And I saw about 30 families that were in our closest circle leave within a week, panicking, saying, we're out here, with all the fears coming up. And I just tapped in over and over again. Are we meant to go? And it came always a clear no. And so we stayed, and we ended up staying on a visa, which was called COVID extension. And they gave it to those foreigners who didn't leave. And they always said each month, we're extending for another month. We can stay another month, because no one knew when COVID ends, right? And so we said, we'll just see how it goes, and we'll stay for as long as they let us. And it wasn't like so comfortable, because you also didn't know what was happening. But at the same time, he ended up staying for 2 years for free in a country that, allowed us to stay. And we had the most amazing time. The island was empty. You had beachfront properties that were like a fraction of the price that you usually pay. There was still kind of a community of people. My kids were always naked outside running around. We didn't experience COVID in a way that other people experienced. So I feel like very, very blessed to have had this experience.
Yeah. And so you also talk about your children and some of their dietary, or one of your sons was I think, dietary needs. And so you were there, but then you wanted to move elsewhere. Was it for his education as well? And can you talk a bit
Yeah.
about that?
So yeah, Thailand then became, so after COVID had ended, we had spent 2 years on Koh Phangan, which is one of the islands. Then I separated from the father of my children and took my little boys. They were 2 and nearly 4 when I made the decision to leave, and I relocated to the next island, Koh Samui, which was just a ferry ride away. I just didn't want to go crazy far away from him, but still enough to create space and breathing room for me to understand where I needed to go next in life. And then Koh Samui turned into our home, and I think for nearly 3.5 years, the boys started kindergarten, preschool. We created a beautiful life there with families and community. Until then, yeah, at 1 years old, my little one, he got diagnosed actually with a genetic defect, which is a very rare um, disease that is affecting his learning abilities too. And so last year, I ended up researching, and we also have, we worked with a therapist, and they said if you stay in that school and keep going in the way, it's actually slowing down his learning progress and his development. And so I did some research, and I looked at him, and also knowing him, he just needs an environment even more immersed into nature. And I found this school in Bali, and it just felt like the perfect place. And again, against all logic, because we had a perfect life there and everything set up, I then said, okay, let's do the move. And now we're here.
Yeah. And so you also had some friends that you were looking for housing, and you had a specific, which I love this piece around how you manifested where you live and the beauty of it. And you wanted to live on the water, and it seemed like almost impossible, right?
Yes.
Can you share
So
that
that
story
was,
as well?
yes, of course. So that was on Samui when I left Koh Phangan, the first island in Thailand. I was spoiled because I had been living beachfront in a resort, like always renting and paying, monthly, um, eh, during COVID time. And so I just said, okay, I live on an island. I want to be seeing the beach and the ocean. And then I went to Koh Samui, and I thought it was the same, but then life was back to normal. Tourists came back, and also the island was different. It was a bit more established, a bit more, um, 5-star retiree tourists, and so they dictated that island. And when I got there, I was looking for properties, beachfront, but everyone always said, "You're crazy. On Samui, you can't find that because there's the big hotels or the expensive Airbnbs that do only short-term rentals, and you will not find a place to stay on Samui that is beachfront." And I said, "No, this can't be true because I can just feel it. There must be, I want a home, I want a house, I want my kids to run around, go from the door and into the sand. And so this must be here." And I kept saying it and thinking it. And then, life happened, time went by, and I sat at dinner with a friend at one time, and I did then talk to her again, and she said, or I said, "Oh, next year, by the way, I will move into my beach house." And that was at the end of 2024. Sorry, 2023. And she said, "Oh, you know what? I just heard of a house that someone moved out there. It's around the corner, and I can give you the number of the person who owns it." And so within minutes, I had this contract in my hands, and we were able to move in and turned it into our house. And it was literally exactly what I wanted. It was beautiful, and with the garden, even with the fence, we had a dog, and everything was just like perfect.
Amazing, amazing. What you've all manifested, what you've achieved. But then let's talk a bit about your work with the Sovereign Mamas and how you have this belief that women, especially moms, have superpowers. And you've created the Sovereign Mamas movement. And so, can you share a bit about your work with that group and how you are now working on a co-authored book? And also, you have this mastermind. It's a 12-month mastermind. Can you talk a bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So over the years, I've always had conversations with, or most of the conversations with mompreneurs ended up being or going into one direction, saying we know we can do it all, like create the empires, right? If you go on in the online space, everyone's talking about empire, and I personally can't stand the word anymore because it just represents something that I do not stand by. I feel like we are, when we become mothers, we're actually going away from this, career-driven solopreneur, masculine-minded energy. And now we have to take care of little ones. And so I there's this slogan that is part of that movement. It's Sovereign Mamas, the village we deserve. And it's because every woman that I talked to was saying, yes, I want to, create a big impact, and I want to still follow my passion, and build a legacy for my children and do what I am here to do. And it doesn't mean that our careers need to end, but in a different way. And we want to do it in connection. We want to be in collaboration. And I feel like everyone who has gone through the entrepreneurship before kids and now with children, they do understand that we need to um, be more in connection with others and uplift each others. And now I'm in spaces where women celebrate each other, where we are really looking to uplift each other and collaborate and network. And so the Sovereign Mamas movement is really there to create a space and a stage for the untold truth about motherhood and business, about helping each other out in those moments where we feel it's all hard and impossible, and where we still get to carve out those dreams and live them, because it is possible. But if you're in the right connection and in the right circles. And so the movement is slowly and organically unfolding, with the podcast as a first stage, where I invite women in to speak about their stories, to speak about what's sovereignty means for them, and how they had, their breakthrough moments, and how they're leading themselves in life and business for their children and for their clients, and first and foremost for themselves. And that's where the mastermind then came out and got created, because it is something so obvious to me that you cannot talk about sovereignty in either in life or business if you're not talking about self-leadership and self-alignment first. And so I've done a bunch of personal development courses, and I've really deep dived into my education around personal development, spirituality, and it just made always no sense to me to not integrate that in the business world. And so now I'm allowing myself for the first time to fully play out everything that I'm doing in my private life, in my personal life, all these discoveries that I have, I'm bringing now into the business coaching world that I had been doing always separately. Like, the strategies now are in alignment with the personal world. And so this 12-month mastermind is literally there to help women who want to have big dreams, do it from an aligned place, not from burnout or hustle, and come back to a sense of groundedness. So there is talks and there's tools to really anchor into strategies, but we also talk about spiritualities and those rituals and topics that you get to explore even deeper and have to also focus on if you want to grow and expand in that area. So that's called Sovereign Spirit, and it's an ongoing mastermind for women who are in a place. I'd say it's not for the beginner, even though we have support for every entrepreneur level. But I think the women who are in there, they have reached already a certain level of accomplishment, and now they know it. They just can't go to the next level if they're not focusing on this. It's not a nice to have. Now it's a priority.
Right. Oh, I love that. It's a great description. And so where did that lead then to the collaboration, like the multi-author book?
The book is, it's funny because it started off with me having this idea of calling it The Secret of Sovereign Mamas, really leaning into this very famous book.
Yes.
They all know The Secret. And now, after speaking to you actually and being in this house here in Bali, where in the shelf I discovered Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Oh, funny.
I read it years ago,
Yeah.
I don't know, decade ago. And then I saw this book and I looked at it and everything clicked then, and I understood that I cannot only create one book, but I have to create a series because there's too many stories. The book is basically another way, another platform to tell stories and give women, mompreneurs, a stage to share their stories and to empower each other and uplift each other, inspire each other. And so I then, saw the book and I said, all right, so this first book is called Secrets of Sovereign Mamas. Now I changed it into plurals.
Right.
And there will be editions, and I will have, other labels and publish more. But the first one is now a collection of stories. There's 11 women who are sharing their raw and unfiltered truths around motherhood and spirituality and business. And it's the same concept as the podcast, but the different format.
Right. Well, amazing. I love your background, everything you've been doing, coming from the 9-to-5 corporate kind of very, structured type of environment and world, then to really live this beautiful wanderlust type of round the world travel, then to come back to motherhood and then to find where you can bring this beautiful life for your children, for yourself, but then also to make a difference in the world. It seems like you've scaffolded your past speaking, your training into what you now can offer to mothers who are entrepreneurs. So where can people get a hold of you and find out more and connect with you, and if they want to be part of this?
Yeah, so there's a website, sovereignmamas.com. Me personally, you'll find on Facebook just with my name, Julia Jerg. I hope you have show notes where
We
people
will.
can then read it. And Instagram is also there under this brand name. And that's, Facebook, Instagram, that's mainly the places.
Awesome.
And then obviously the podcast is on Spotify and all the podcast platforms as well.
Right. So, and I was on your podcast, so that's going to be, some nice cross promotion there that you can hear now the other flip side of this, where Julia was interviewing me and I was able to share my story on her podcast. So, Julia, any last words of wisdom, advice, a quote that you've heard recently, something that you can offer to the listener?
I think the biggest message that I have for women listening is, even though it might sound cheesy, but listen to yourself. Like, if you can find a mentor, a space, a process, a book, anything that helps you reconnect with yourself and truly find out who this inner voice is and what it is saying to you, that's the biggest gift that I've been finding for myself and using this as my compass and making these decisions, the bold moves that I've made in my life really are anchored in and based on this voice. So if you can do this, then don't be scared, because this voice always knows the truth and is guiding you on your path.
So true. I love that. So thank you for being here. And I wish you so much blessing for you and your little family, and just appreciate you. So to the listener, don't forget to dare to declare. Today, we've delved into the realm of manifesting giants, exploring the power of declaring our desires to the universe with unapologetic boldness. But before we bid adieu, I have a little something special to share with all of you dreamers out there. Introducing the Dare to Declare Vision Board magazine and online DIY Vision Board course, your ticket to manifesting greatness in style. Picture this: flipping through pages filled with inspiring images, empowering quotes, and step-by-step guides to help you create the vision board of your dreams. Whether you're yearning for that spacious condo with a view, or a love that sets your soul on fire, our magazine is here to guide you every step of the way. Dive deep into the art of manifesting with our exclusive online DIY vision board course. Led by manifesting expert, yes, yours truly, and seasoned dreamers, this course will teach you the ins and outs of creating a vision board that speaks to your heart and soul. So what are you waiting for? Join the ranks of the manifesting giants and dare to declare your wildest dreams to the universe. Head over to our website, debbisluice.com, and grab your copy of the Dare to Declare Vision Board magazine and enroll in our online DIY Vision Board course today. Until next time, keep dreaming big and daring to declare, because in the world of manifesting, the sky's the limit.